Good to have you with us as we get into December here. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Happy Friday to you. Thank you very much for starting your morning with us. We are going to begin this morning with the Trump administration's latest attack on vessels in the Pacific. Overnight, U.S. Southern Command shared this video. It's on your screen right now. It's of another deadly strike conducted by the U.S. military on an alleged drug boat, making it the 22nd such attack by the administration since September. The Pentagon says 4 narco-terrorists were killed without providing any evidence about who or what was on board the vessel.
The strikes continue despite growing pressure and scrutiny on Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth over these actions. Top military officials went to Capitol Hill yesterday to defend an attack on an alleged drug boat near Venezuela on September 2nd, including the follow-up strike that killed remaining survivors. In a closed-door meeting, officials showed lawmakers footage of this strike, and Democrats and Republicans had vastly different reactions.
You have 2 individuals in clear distress without any means of locomotion, with a destroyed vessel, who were killed by the United States.
I saw 2 survivors trying to flip a boat loaded with drugs bound for the United States back over so they could stay in the fight.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us now from Washington. Julie, good morning. So first of all, just what more are we learning about this latest boat strike?
Yeah, well, we really don't know much besides what they posted on social media. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, reposting that post, and essentially the military saying that under Hegseth's orders, they launched this strike. By our count, it's number 22 of Secretary Hegseth's tenure. Remember, Congress has not declared war. There's been no authorization for these strikes, which is why they have been so controversial. We know that 4 people were killed. According to the military, they are narco-terrorists, and this is a designated terrorist organization. This one happened in the Eastern Pacific. Of course, the other strikes that we were talking about happened in the Caribbean.
Julie, Admiral Frank Bradley briefed lawmakers yesterday on that September 2nd attack on an alleged drug boat. It's drawn increased scrutiny because of that second strike on the survivors of the first strike. He commanded this particular mission. It was a closed-door meeting, but what have we learned about his defense of the operation?
Well, first of all, Republicans and Democrats, the very limited amount of members in the House and the Senate that actually attended these closed-door briefings, they were the heads of the Armed Services Committees, the Intelligence Committees. They did praise Admiral Bradley. Nobody came out of that closed-door session saying that he did anything wrong or they were confused by his actions. But we did hear very different reactions, basically broken down by party lines. Republicans, as you heard there from Tom Cotton, who is the chairman of the Intelligence Committee in the Senate, saying they didn't see anything wrong in the videos. They said that Hegseth had all the authority to conduct this strike. Of course, it was Bradley who ordered the second strike. There was also a third and a fourth one. But Democrats, including ones that I spoke to, said this was one of the most disturbing briefings they have ever attended. The big question is, where does this go from here? Some members are calling for open hearings, open sessions. They want to hear from Hegseth. Others want more classified information given to all rank and file members. So that's really still an open question, guys.
Yeah, so different interpretations of the video and I think different theories on what to do next. Republicans are defending the administration. Democrats say the attacks might be illegal. The administration standing by Hegseth. Democrats calling for his ouster. That includes Senator Patty Murray, who said in part, quote, Pete Hegseth should be fired between overseeing this campaign in the Caribbean, risking U.S. service members' lives by sharing war plans on Signal, and so much else. It could not be more obvious that Secretary Hegseth is unfit for the role. But what can Democrats realistically do if they don't control Congress? I mean, to impeach, they would need Republican votes, right?
Yeah, they absolutely would need Republican votes. And at this case, there is no sign that Republicans are going to join Democrats in that effort. There was a Democrat in the House who said that he would introduce articles of impeachment against Secretary Hegseth. But again, Republicans would very much need to provide the votes and join into that effort in the House. And then, of course, if a trial happens in the Senate. But it is extremely rare, guys, to impeach cabinet secretaries. In fact, in history, there have only been 2. And both of those people remained in their positions. I will tell you you, though, there's a lot of controversy around Pete Hegseth. I'm glad you brought up Signalgate. It's stunning to remember the fact that that report came out from the Inspector General's office the same week that these classified briefings on the strikes took place, both controversial matters. You do have some Republicans speaking to the strikes who want to kind of curtail the administration's war powers. That includes Senator Rand Paul. But aside from him, there aren't many Republicans. And on the impeachment matter, there are, of course, Republicans that I'm talking to even behind the scenes who are disgruntled by Pete Hegseth's actions so far. Are they going to take that step and cross the president? That seems unlikely at this point, but certainly this story is far from over.
No kidding. All right, Julie Sirkin, thank you so much.
Well, federal agents made an arrest on Thursday that could be the end of a mystery that has baffled investigators for nearly 5 years. Yesterday, 30-year-old Brian Cole Jr. from Virginia was arrested on charges of planting pipe bombs in the nation's capital in 2021.
At the time, the FBI shared these images of the suspect planting those bombs near the headquarters of both the Democratic and Republican parties. It was the night before rioters stormed the Capitol on January 6th when lawmakers were meeting to certify the 2020 election results.
NBC News senior justice reporter Ryan Riley joins us now with more on what could happen next for the suspect. Ryan, good morning. So, I mean, this is a case that spawned a lot of conjecture, a lot of conspiracy theories. There were so many images, even details down to the sneakers that the suspect was wearing, and yet for years, no suspect, no arrest. What led agents to make this arrest all these years later?
Yeah, it was information that was already in their possession, and so they had basically fresh eyes being put on this. Remember, though, the January 6th investigation was the largest investigation in American history, full stop, because of the extensive amount of evidence, the thousands of criminal suspects in that case, and so now for the past 10, 11, 12 months, they've had the luxury of not having to prosecute any of those individuals who assaulted law enforcement officers that day, and were able to dedicate more resources solely to this case and basically look back at the evidence. And now we're in a situation where the only person who might be held accountable for some of the vicious attacks on January 6th is actually someone whose actions didn't result in any injuries to police officers, in spite of the fact that it very well could have injured people who either were around the DNC or the RNC. And so the big question, I think, now going forward as we await a future court hearing is what exactly was the motive here?
Yeah, I mean, beyond the motive, which is, of course, the huge question here, just what else are we learning about the suspect?
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of details. We're still sort of reporting out. He is cooperating with law enforcement, so we're still trying to flesh out exactly what he's saying there. But, big picture, I would say, it's hard to imagine someone who supported Joe Biden would have any reason to plant pipe bombs on the eve of the certification of his election. So just, from a pure logical standpoint, I think that's something to keep an eye on, because we've seen so many of these conspiracies float up in the past 5 years. And this was sort of a distraction away because of because this person's identification was a mystery. This was a way that individuals, in the House and Trump supporters were able to sort of put the blame elsewhere for what happened on January 6th.
So, Ryan, this arrest solved this outstanding mystery from January 6th, but raising some questions now. What happens next to the suspect? Our viewers probably remember on his first day back in office, President Trump issued a mass pardon for all of the January 6th rioters. You just mentioned that when you say this could be the only person who really sees any ramifications from their actions. Do we think that pardon, is there any reason to believe it could be applied to this pipe bomb suspect?
From individuals I've spoken to, they think that's the first move that that any defense lawyer is going to make here. And, just drawing that contrast between some of those really violent attacks and this action, which, while, certainly potentially dangerous, didn't actually injure a sole person, right? So I think drawing that contrast is going to be a big thing. But, legally speaking, they're going to try to argue that this pardon itself, the language of the pardon itself, extends to this individual. But I think they're going to really face an uphill battle there, just because of the language of the pardon itself. And I think judges are going to give deference to the Justice Department when they probably come forward and argue that Donald Trump did not intend to pardon this individual. Although the Justice Department has shown some flexibility, I guess we could say, about who exactly this pardon should apply to. They've argued that it should apply to people who were found with illegal guns in their house after they were searched for January 6th, but they do not want it to apply to individuals who possessed pornographic material involving children. That's a line that they've drawn before, and they say those individuals should not have been pardoned by by Donald Trump, but they do say that those gun cases should. So it's been a little bit of a mess in the past several months in figuring out exactly the contours of that pardon.
Ryan Riley, thanks very much for reporting here.
The Justice Department's effort to revive a criminal case against New York Attorney General Letitia James appears to have hit a roadblock. A source familiar with the matter tells us that yesterday, a federal grand jury declined to re-indict James. Not even 2 weeks ago, the original mortgage fraud case against her was dismissed. A judge tossed out the grand jury indictment on charges of bank fraud and making false statements to a financial institution.
The judge dismissed that case on the grounds that the prosecutor, its former Trump attorney Lindsay Halligan, was not lawfully appointed. Now, James has denied any wrongdoing, calling the charges against her baseless. In a statement yesterday, she said she was grateful to the members of the grand jury, adding, quote, "It is time for this unchecked weaponization of our justice system to stop."
NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos is here to help us break down the latest developments in this case. So, Danny, the Justice Department could have appealed this November decision about the prosecutor, instead said, let's just try and see if we can get another indictment. Why do you think they tried to go that route, and why, in the end, do you think the grand jury declined to indict here?
It's easier, it's faster, it's cheaper. It's a page out of the Trump playbook. If something doesn't work, just go back to the drawing board and do it again. If they had appealed that case or appealed that dismissal, first of all, they all but conceded that the issues involved there went against the government. But even if they had appealed, that would have taken a long time. They don't need to do that. Just go back to the grand jury, get another indictment, start over. Except they probably never imagined that this grand jury would return no true bill, or basically find that there was not probable cause to proceed against James. This is a shocking development.
Danny, let's get into the detail of these prosecutors that are being appointed and it really not panning out. And also when the president is involved directly and this sort of backfiring. Walk us through what is happening, sort of the technicality here, and what you think it ultimately means for this effort for the president to go after political adversaries that he's been vocal about.
Right. Generally speaking, what's happening is it usually involves the 120-day period when a U.S. attorney can be temporarily appointed. The Trump administration has taken the view that this is a squishier set of rules than others think it is. In other words, if the 120 days expires in the case of Lindsay Halligan, they tried to just appoint her again or appoint somebody new, in that case, Lindsay Halligan, as a new 120-day interim U.S. attorney. But at least in that case, the court concluded that you cannot simply reset this 120-day clock. The whole point of the statute is to say that the president can't bypass Senate confirmation by just temporarily appointing U.S. attorneys over and over again.
One after the other.
Yeah, exactly. That's why the district court has a say under the statute, and the government tried to bypass that. So that's what's happening in all of these cases. And the Trump administration, instead of appealing something that they will probably lose and know they will lose, just goes back to another grand jury and says, well, let's do this another way.
And you mentioned the decision to not indict is shocking. I mean, I think we've all heard the expression, you can indict a ham sandwich. How rare is it to not get an indictment? And then just separately, I mean, does this mean likely Letitia James' legal issues in this case are over?
Joe, this never happens. That's it. Full stop. We can go to the next story. Is oatmeal bad for you? That's up next.
Yeah.
We do not. This is something that I've never even heard of, except maybe in state courts. If you have a prosecutor that's just got a lot of cases, they have a lot more volume. But this is a federal case that prosecutors care about. They care about it a lot. And if you're going to go before a grand jury and you cannot show probable cause, because that's the standard, then that means you're violating the U.S. Attorney Manual rule that says that you don't go to the grand jury unless you believe you can prove your case beyond a reasonable doubt. I can't emphasize enough how shocking this is, because this means that in a one-sided proceeding before a grand jury, they couldn't even get to probable cause, which is arguably the lowest burden of proof in the law.
All right. Danny Savalos, good to have you with us as always.
Thank you. Well, the Supreme Court has handed the Trump administration a political and legal victory ahead of next year's midterm elections. So yesterday, the court said it will allow Texas to use a new congressional district map that was drawn in favor of Republicans. The move could give the GOP up to 5 additional seats next year, allowing them to potentially hang on to power in the House. The conservative majority court paused a lower court ruling that said the map was unlawful because Republican lawmakers, at the direction of President Trump, explicitly considered race when drawing these new districts. Texas's Attorney General Ken Paxton called the decision a, quote, massive win for Texas. But Democrats did not see it that way. In a post on X yesterday, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said the Supreme Court had, quote, shredded its credibility by rubber stamping a racially gerrymandered map.
Now to the big freeze that's setting in for much of the country this morning.
In some parts of the Midwest, like Chicago, we're seeing temperatures drop into the single digits, where stretches of the Northeast have been hit by dangerous snow squalls.
NBC's Ryan Nobles is in Washington, which could see its first snow of the season later today. Good morning, Ryan. You typically cover the chill inside the Capitol. Now it's the chill outside of it. And Washington does have a reputation for struggling with snow. So how's it looking? How are folks preparing?
Well, Joe, we actually are already starting to see those snowflakes. They started falling about an hour ago. I certainly wouldn't describe it as overwhelming, but there is the chance that this snow could accumulate, in part because of how cold the temperatures are going to be here today. Right now, we're hovering around 29 degrees. Those temperatures are expected to stay somewhere in the mid to high 20s, maybe low 30s. That's enough where if the precipitation continues that we could see this snow start to pick up and stick around the region. But these super cold temperatures are not just happening here in the mid-Atlantic. We're seeing temperatures in the teens, maybe even in the single digits in the Midwest and in other parts of the Northeast, and even in the South, places like Louisiana, Arkansas, North Carolina, dealing with the remnants of this big chill across the country. In some places, they're dealing with a wintry mix. In other places, it's just outright rain, which could lead to flash flooding. So there is a significant part of the country that is dealing with the effects of this massive weather system across the country.
And then if it's not rain, if it's not snow, it is just freezing, this bitter cold for much of the East Coast. What are people going to feel when they step outside today?
Well, it really depends on where you are, but there is a very good chance that the combination of cold temperatures and wind chill are going to make the conditions as cold as they've been this entire winter season. In most places across the country, we are talking about temperatures being anywhere between 15 to 25 degrees below normal. So even though it isn't as cold as it could possibly get in many of these places, it's going to feel very cold because we're just not accustomed to those temperatures this early in the season. So if you're leaving the house this morning, make sure you grab your warm jacket because it is going to be cold.
I know it's cold, but that is a beautiful shot behind you there, Ryan. So kudos to you and your crew. Stay warm, my friend.
Thanks for being out there. Well, for more on this bitter freeze, let's check in on your morning news now. Weather.
Meteorologist Angie Lassman joined us with the forecast. Angie, good morning.
Hi, guys. Good morning. As Ryan mentioned, yes, single-digit feels like temperatures have really taken hold across a good chunk of the country. And notice, these are the temperatures that we're feeling right now. So 13 degrees in Chicago, but feeling just like 2 degrees, 20 degrees in Minneapolis, feeling like 12. Places like Nashville, you're waking up to wind chill values into those low 30s, and New York City just feeling like 11 degrees. So the extra layers are a must, even as we get into the afternoon hours today and we see those peak temperatures. We're into the teens for the wind chill in Chicago later this afternoon. We've got 20s for what it'll feel like in Cleveland and low 30s for the actual and feels like temperature in New York by later this afternoon. As we roll into our weekend, still going to need those jackets. We're really not going to get rid of this bitter cold in a hurry. We're going to still see temperatures into the 30s across Michigan and Ohio. You can see Washington, D.C. into those low 40s for your high on Saturday. But we gear up for that next cold blast here as we get into the end of the weekend and into early next week in some spots. So here's how it plays out. Notice the 10-degree high temperature on Sunday in Minneapolis. You do rebound back to those mid-20s, so feeling a little more normal by the time we get into the middle of our upcoming work week. But then we'll see places like Pittsburgh go from those mid-30s to the upper 20s by Monday. And of course, Boston, you end up in that same kind of pattern where it's a little chillier for you Monday, but then we see a bit of a rebound by the time we get into the middle of our upcoming work week. Meanwhile, across parts of the South, we've got temperatures into the 60s, the 70s. I don't know. Miami seems like where it's at right now. Mid-80s for Sunday sounds pretty good to me, guys. That happens early next week. We've got those winter alerts. Ryan mentioned that we've got some flurries that we're dealing with. 19 million people across the country, and specifically the Mid-Atlantic dealing with some of those snow showers. So Washington, D.C. to Roanoke, Norfolk dealing with the wintry mix. Down through Myrtle Beach, Columbia, Atlanta, it's rain, but it's still going to slow you down this morning, so heads up. And you're going to want to make sure that you have a plan for rain here over the next couple of days across the southeast, guys. We kind of keep that front hanging around, and it'll be pesky, and it'll bring us some rain, but it will be beneficial rain across that area for Saturday and Sunday. A little moisture needed in that region.
Got it. And you're wearing green today.
I'm wearing green today, and I've got a little something to tell you about it here coming up at 8.
Stay tuned. All right, Angie.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.